will face a stress test, a careful examination of their health. Another step is to create a public-private investment fund. This will use government and private money to buy housing loans and other troubled assets that financial companies are unable to sell. The fund may reach $1 trillion in financing, but will start with half of that. The idea is to use private capital and private asset managers to help set a market value for the securities. Exactly how is not clear yet. A third step is to increase the availability of credit for individuals and businesses. Tim Geithner says the government is prepared with up to $1 trillion to rebuild the market for loan-based securities. Mr. Geithner said about 40% of consumer lending has been made available because people buy loans, put them together, and sell them. And because this important source of lending has frozen up, no financial recovery plan will be successful unless it helps restart the loan-based securities markets. The new lending program will build on one announced last November by the Federal Reserve, and it will expand to markets for small businesses and products like student and auto loans. Experts said the Obama administration would later announce details of a plan for the housing crisis. But the Treasury Secretary has promised $50 billion to help people keep their homes. The money is to come from the second half of the $700 billion in TARP funds. TARP was the Bush administration's Troubled Asset Relief Program. The Obama program is called the Financial Stability Plan. It continues some of last year's measures. But TARP was criticized on supervision. The new administration says it will hold banks responsible for how they use taxpayers' money and will report details on a website. And that's the VOA Special English Economics Report.
This is the VOA Special English Development Report. Health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo have declared the end of an outbreak of Ebola virus. Cases were first identified in December in the southern province of Kasai Occidental. The World Health Organization says officials reported a total of 32 cases, including 15 deaths. The worst form of the disease kills 9 out of 10 victims. Ebola is a hemorrhagic fever. It causes unstoppable bleeding. It spreads through contact with blood and other bodily fluids. There are no cures, but researchers continue to learn more about how the feared virus works. It was named for the Ebola River in the former Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. A doctor in Zaire documented the first outbreak in 1976. Hundreds of people were infected, and most died. The epidemic might have been even worse had it not been for the father of the actress Glenn Close. Dr. William Close, an American, worked in Zaire for 16 years. For a time, he was one of only 3 doctors and the only surgeon at a huge hospital in Kinshasa. Later, he was the administrator. He was also chief doctor of Zaire's army and personal physician to President Mobutu Sese Seko. One night, Dr. Close was on a plane returning from a visit to the United States. He heard 2 other passengers talking about the epidemic. The United States Centers for Disease Control had sent them to help. One was a virus expert. Carl Johnson had identified and photographed the Ebola virus just days earlier. The other was Joel Bremen, another CDC expert. Dr. Close spent the flight talking with them. Then, in Zaire, he quickly used his connections and influence with the government. Dr. Bremen remembers how William Close's planning and administration helped the medical team end the epidemic. He organized supply flights, for example, to affected areas. To contain the spread of the virus, people were restricted to villages. Medical workers were given protective clothing. Equipment was carefully disinfected. After his work in Africa, William Close returned to the United States. He became a country doctor, as he had always wanted. He was still working in Big Piney, Wyoming, when he died of a heart attack on January 15th. He was 84 years old. Joel Bremen says Dr. Close left his mark on the world. And that's the VOA Special English Development Report. This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. We talked last week about growing beets. Today, we have advice about growing another root vegetable, carrots. Carrots are easy to grow and easy to harvest. They taste good, and they contain a lot of carotene, which the body makes into vitamin A. When people think of carrots, they usually picture in their mind a vegetable that is long, thin, and orange. But carrots come in many different sizes and shapes, and not all carrots are orange. For example, Paris market carrots are about 5 centimeters around. Imperator carrots are thin and about 25 centimeters long. And Belgian white carrots are, as their name suggests, white. For the best results, carrots should be grown in sandy soil that does not hold water for a long time. The soil also should have no rocks. To prepare your garden for carrots, dig up the soil, loosen it, and turn it over. Then mix in some plant material or animal fertilizer. Weather, soil conditions, and age will affect the way carrots taste. Experts say warm days, cool nights, and a medium soil temperature are the best conditions for growing carrots that taste great. Carrots need time to develop their full sugar content. This gives them their taste. If they are harvested too early, they will not have enough sugar. But carrots lose their sweetness if you wait too long to pull them from the ground. The best way to judge if a carrot is ready to be harvested is by its color. Usually, the brighter the color, the better the taste. Many people do not know that carrots can be grown during the winter months. If the winter is not cold enough to freeze the ground, you can grow and harvest carrots the same way as during the summer months. If the ground does freeze in your part of the world, simply cover your carrot garden with a thick layer of leaves or straw. This will prevent the ground from freezing. You can remove the ground cover and harvest the carrots as they are needed. Carrots are one of the world's most popular vegetables. They can be cooked and prepared many different ways. Or, once they are washed, they can be eaten just as they come out of the ground. And that's the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. For more agricultural advice, go to voaspecialenglish.com for transcripts, MP3s, and podcasts of our reports. And our email address is special@voanews.com. This is the VOA Special English Health Report. A new study suggests that the more teenagers watch television, the more likely they are to develop depression as young adults. But the extent to which TV may or may not be to blame is a question that the study leaves unanswered. The researchers used a national long-term survey of adolescent health to investigate the relationship between media use and depression. They based their findings on more than 4,000 adolescents who were not depressed when the study began in 1995. As part of the survey, the young people were asked how many hours of television or videos they watched daily. They were also asked how often they played computer games and listened to the radio. Media use totaled an average of 5.5 hours a day. More than 2 hours of that was spent watching TV. 7 years later, in 2002, more than 7% of the young people had signs of depression. The average age at that time was 21. Brian Primack at the University of Pittsburgh Medical School was the lead author of the new study. He says every extra hour of television meant an 8% increase in the chances of developing signs of depression. The researchers say they did not find any such relationship with the use of other media, such as movies, video games, or radio. But the study did find that young men were more likely than young women to develop depression, given the same amount of media use. Dr. Primack says the study did not explore if watching TV causes depression. But one possibility, he says, is that it may take time away from activities that could help prevent depression, like sports and socializing. It might also interfere with sleep, he says, and that could have an influence. The study was just published in the Archives of General Psychiatry. In December, the journal Social Indicators Research published a study of activities that help lead to happy lives. Sociologists from the University of Maryland found that people who describe themselves as happy spend less time watching television than unhappy people. The study found that happy people are more likely to be socially active, read, attend religious services, and vote. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report. For archives of our reports, go to voaspecialenglish.com. This is the VOA Special English Education Report. This week, we visit 4 websites where students can learn about higher education in the United States. Capex.com matches students with colleges and universities. Students create a profile about themselves and their interests. The site then suggests 10 to 20 schools. Capex President Chris Long says, however, that there are no guarantees of admission. The site is free to students. Capex sells advertising on the site to schools and companies. CollegeClickTV.com has 30,000 videos of students answering questions about their schools. They might talk about life in the dormitories, for example, or classes and professors they like. Schools pay College Click TV to come on campus, but founder and president Glenn Pear says schools do not approve or reject any comments. That does not mean the site will use whatever students say. Glenn Pear says they must give reasons for their opinions. Zinch.com has video profiles produced by students themselves. Co-founder Sid Cromanhook says it is a place where students can show their abilities and talents. The company says more than 600 colleges pay to use the site to search for students. More than 500,000 high school students have profiles on the site. Finally, we come to Unigo.com. Unigo offers college reviews, videos, and other content created by students. Features include unofficial campus tours and advice for dealing with the recession. Oh, and of course, dating on campus, or what really goes on when the lights go off. The free site, supported by ads, has a team of full-time editors. The site was launched to the public last September by a startup company led by its 26-year-old founder. Jordan Goldman says the site is starting with 250 of America's top colleges and will add more. Unigo, Zinch, College Click TV, and Capex are just some of the sites for college searches on the web. Others include My College Options, Check My Campus, and Princeton Review. And that's the VOA Special English Education Report. Our Foreign Student Series continues next week. The series is online at our website, voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find transcripts, MP3s, and podcasts of our reports. And our email address is special@voanews.com. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. President Barack Obama has a plan to deal with the central cause of the economic crisis, America's troubled housing market. He said the plan will help between 7 and 9 million families restructure or refinance their mortgages so they can avoid foreclosure. The Homeowner Affordability